skies, and on every occasion that you do, I don't smile.
So welcome to Sensible Secondhand Reviews, a series where we look at cars that you can buy between £1,000 and £5,000, and we review them in a very cost-effective manner. This is a 2017 Suzuki Baleno 1 litre SZ5 Automatic. Very grateful to have been lent this today by Colin, who is in the back with me today, and we're just driving down the country lanes of Stockbridge. Hopefully my microphone is actually working today. Before we get into more detail about this car, please take a moment to like this video and to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and leave a comment below. So this Baleno, which is completely different from the car that was made in the 90s and early 2000s, was introduced in 2015 to the world markets and to our market in the summer of 2016. There really are only 3 engines available, and 2 of those are variants of 1 engine. So it's a very simple range structure, and there are only 3 trim levels. This is the SZ5, which is at the top of the range, but there are also SZ3 and SZ models. The SZ3 was only available with 1.2 litre engine, which generates 89 horsepower with no form of turbo or electrical assistance at all. The SZT and SZ5 models were available with a choice of 2 engines, that 1.2 but with Suzuki's mild hybrid system, which they call SHVS, but also generate 89 horsepower despite the electrical assistance being there as well. And then we've also got this Boosterjet engine, which is a 1 litre 3-cylinder with 110 horsepower. That was available in both manual and automatic transmissions, and that was the only one available with an automatic like this one. Strangely, the only manual gearbox you can get in a Baleno is a 5-speed. You couldn't get a 6-speed manual. The platform this is based on is very similar to the Suzuki Ignis, and we've had an Ignis on the channel before, all the way back in March 2020, and the current Swift. Now the Swift is a much smaller car than this, and for a while the Swift and the Ignis and the Celerio all sort of coexisted within Suzuki's range before the Baleno and the Celerio were dropped in 2019 due to low sales. The first thing I noticed about this car, and having just driven another of Suzuki's current range of Vitara, is that it's very user-friendly and easy to drive. It's not perhaps the sort of easiest thing to get to grips with in town compared with something like a Celerio, which Colin did used to have one of those, and you've seen that on the channel as well, I imagine. But I do feel this is more comfortable and quieter than one of those, and compared with the Swift, it feels a lot more spacious. Clearly Suzuki were aiming at a different type of person from a Swift when they brought this car out, despite it being based on the same platform and sharing some of the engines. We've got this automatic gearbox, which is a 6-speed unit. Particularly when driving through town, and we're driving through a little place called Stockbridge at the moment, it's ideal really. Just no fuss, no worries about anything. I like it. I like it quite a lot. So we've parked up again here, just near Danebury Ring or Danebury Hill Fort, which is near Stockbridge. One of the things straight away you notice about a Baleno is the lightness of the doors. The Ignis is the same, and so is the Swift. Not surprising really, because all these cars share the same platform. Colin's very kindly left me a little brochure there, next to the secret mission documents. So you can see it's actually this car, it's a white one. And we can see a certain Welsh-based YouTube channel is also being advertised. I think I'll get the other side in a second before we open the boot first, I think. One of the main selling points of one of these over a Swift is the size of the boot. I've read different capacities from about 330 litres to 355 litres. Certainly it's very big for the size of the car. Just lift that up there. You can see we've got an adjustable height boot floor as well. And if I go even further down, Colin's actually had a space saver spare wheel fitted to the car, which I think is a very, very sensible thing to do indeed. If you were to fold down these rear seats with the boot floor in this position, they would be nice and flat as well. I don't know why that light's not working. Perhaps it's like a switch or something. But there's a light in there, and on autofocus it's gone a bit funny. There we go, it's better. Again, a very light tailgate. There's no way that you're going to need electric boot open air on this or anything. Reversing camera, of course. No parking sensors for some reason, even though this is a top of a range car, which I found a bit strange. So driving seat's actually in Colin's position rather than mine, but this helps demonstrate just how much room there is. Look at this. It's absolutely crazy. There's probably more room in here than something like a Golf. Loads and loads of knee room. If it was for me, it would be a little bit tighter, but still not that tight. 12-volt socket as well in the back of here. The one thing you don't get is an armrest, but that's the case for many cars this type. If I just move that headrest up a bit, you know, I have to slouch slightly in here, but there's not really much hardship in doing that. The doors have sort of bottle holders in them. The only thing I'm aware of, if I just pull the door to me a little bit, is this sort of hard and shiny black plastic, which seems to characterise a lot of contemporary Suzuki interiors, such as the Vitara that we recently had on test. But in this car, because it's an SZ5, we do have rear electric windows, which is good. Much better than that Clio that we tested recently. And there you can see a little sticker. It's quite obvious as well that we've got rear tinted windows in here, and the Suzuki have found that the car is so sort of long that they need extra windows in the C-pillar, which is remarkable really. Adjustable height seat belts, and there's that big centre touchscreen. It's probably one of the nicest touchscreen we've ever had in Sensible Secondhand Reviews, actually. I've just noticed as well you can take the covers off these seats if you want to clean them. That's interesting. Enormous headrest for some reason too. Right, let's take a look in the front. Right, let's just get in. Just move the seat back a little bit because it's a bit taller than Colin is. There we go. Just thinking that the dials have sort of lit in blue. If I just shut the door 1 second, because this is an automatic, I don't think I'll need to push the clutch to start it. I think I just push the brake instead. The central design is interesting. It's very kind of minimalist in terms of the heater controls, but that's not really a bad thing. They look very simple. So I've got keyless entry, push the brake, start it up, there we go. That is actually not a standard feature. That is Colin's little heads-up display, just in case anyone's wondering. I don't think we're going to have any copyrights coming on, no. So yes, there we go. I've actually got climate control in this car, and it's very simple to operate indeed. It's really simple. The buttons are nice and clear. I mean, it's not the nicest feeling dashboard I've ever seen, but the thing is, it is very, very clear. think you might actually even be able to sort of go through the different menu options here. Press that button. Oh no, we don't want that. Don't want that. No, we don't want any of that. That's not going to work very well. Ah, yes. Apparently, you just press this. That's a bit old-fashioned. You press the trip reset switch to cycle through the menus. That's really strange. And it's got, oh, a motion meter and a torque and pass. If I press the accelerator slightly, and you can hear that 1 litre 3-cylinder engine. I mean, that I think is a bit pointless for the kind of person who would want to drive one of these Balenos, but it's there if you want to play around with it. We'll just put that back to what it was before. So if we just switch that off a second. Actually, I can need that on to operate this this radio. So we'll go back to the home screen. There are no physical buttons on one of these Suzuki displays, and this is something that we covered in the Vitara review as well. I don't think we've got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay on one of these, but we do have lots of different things we can do. We've got sound settings, and we actually got on this as well some sat nav as well. That doesn't really show you anything. We're at a junction of two things. We could be anywhere actually. I think we've got DAB radio in this. I'm pretty sure we do. We'd have to sort of work out the different things. It's a little bit confusing to operate the radio. And there's one thing as well that I don't like about these Suzuki systems, is that there's no physical knob or anything to actually operate the volume control. You do have, of course, on the steering wheel these buttons here, and buttons for the telephone and the cruise control and things like that. I think it's actually adaptive in this car, which is why we have this button here, being an SZ5 top of the range. But that's all you get. The volume slider is this thing here, which I'm not entirely convinced is the safest thing really to stab away at when you're actually trying to drive. So down here we have an armrest, and there's a little storage compartment there. Normal handbrake, thank goodness. I like normal handbrakes, as most of you probably know. There's my mount in here. Colin's got loads of interesting things plugged into here, because we've got aux in and a USB port and a 12-volt socket there as well. So lots of different options. 2 cup holders and a space for, I presume you could throw a smartphone in there as well actually. Let's test the glove box, see if my secret mission documents actually go in, which they don't, so we're not going to have any cutaways of that. Lots of storage in the side door bins. Just open the door so you can see it a bit better. That's probably going on at me because I have the engine started or something. So plenty of room for bits and pieces. Full electric windows, of course. The top of the range model. The electric mirror switch feels a bit interesting, but that's the same on most Suzukis. Now, what I don't really understand is we've got loads of sort of controls in this car for things like, you know, adaptive cruise and all sorts of exciting things. But we've got blanking plates. We've got 3 blanking plates here and 2 blanking plates here. I don't exactly know what all these blanking plates are before, but that's interesting, I suppose. And the automatic transmission, suppose you've got some kind of shift lock as well on it. We do actually have we've got more interior lights in here than we have in an MG ZS as well, which is fascinating. You don't get one up there in an MG ZS for some reason. A little vanity mirror as well for the driver, and one as well for the passenger. And you get this rather nice headlining, which feels good actually. And of course, shift paddles for the gearbox and automatic lights, although Colin tells me there are no automatic wipers in this car, which, you know, some people find them pretty annoying. I just find that a bit disappointing. Right, let's have a look at the engine. So this is the 1 litre Boosterjet engine. It's a turbocharged 3-cylinder with 110 horsepower. One thing I've noticed about this, and this is unusual for a modern car like this, is the engine bay is very accessible. You can actually see things like the aircon radiator and you can also see the gearbox very clearly. That the gearbox is just this thing here, which is interesting. Now I'm trying to work out, because I've heard different things about this, whether or not this car was built in India or Hungary. I think it was built in India, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe somebody in the comments can tell me that. They also built these in Algeria, or rather they still do. The Baleno was discontinued for our market in 2019 due to low sales, but they do still sell them in other parts of the world with all sorts of different engines. We only got really 2.5 different types of engine in this country. But yes, considering this is the same platform as the Ignis and the Swift, there's quite a lot of room in here. Obviously it's been extended a bit, and yeah, I mean, it's knowing Suzuki, this engine will probably be very reliable, and I think it's also chain driven, so no sort of cam belt changes to worry about there really. One thing I've really noticed about this car is how smooth and quiet it is to drive. And I think the target market for one of these, which is the more sort of mature, perhaps family-focused buyer, is that that's exactly what they would want. This isn't a Swift Sport, and so it doesn't handle like a Swift Sport. The steering is very light, and it's not devoid of feel or anything like that, but there's not a lot of weight to it, particularly at lower speeds. But that's not really a problem for the average person who's going to be buying a car like this. It's far more likely that the sort of person who's looking at one of these when they were new would be looking at something like, I don't know, a Polo or a Skoda Fabia, rather than little racy things like the Swift. You don't really see many of these around, and obviously Suzuki having to make money, and you know, that's why they discontinued these cars. But it is a bit of a shame, because this sort of nice docile character, and you know, particularly with this automatic option, which I'm sure appealed to a lot of the buyers. You see plenty of these around with this 1 litre engine and the automatic gearbox. Particularly with that combination, I can see why it would have appealed to people. We've got things in this top of the range model like adaptive cruise control as well, and you know, it would make a very relaxing motorway car, this too. I've driven this engine in a SX4 S-Cross, and with a manual gearbox it's actually pretty good too. I'll just put this into the manual mode. There we go. I can actually drive this with the shift paddles, which we'll give a little try, maybe a bit later once we've got through this traffic.
Eine Stunde später.
It's cleared, and we are in manual mode, because I have to remember to change gear. With these paddles I feel like I'm a racing driver. Right, second gear, third gear. Going up this hill, it is quite steep, and unfortunately the surface is terrible, which is why the camera's shaking around so much, and also why you can see the mount, because that's just the way that it goes on this channel. Right, so we come out of 30 limit in a second, and we'll accelerate up this hill. Leave it in third. Okay, go. Always a bit of punch. There's definitely a bit of punch there. Fourth, there we are. Let's knock that back into standard automatic, so I don't have to worry about that. One of the contemporary tests of this car said that the automatic was very good, and to be honest, it is. I mean, you can take the manual control if you think it's hesitating or something like that. And 0 to 60 in this particular car, I think it's 10.5 seconds, which isn't too bad. Maybe you do need that power and torque meter to keep you entertained during the sort of long journeys that you might be doing in your Baleno. Yeah, steering is just a little tad too light for my taste. The grip is good, and the feel of it is okay. Just would prefer it to be a little bit more weighty, but you know, it's the same with so many modern cars like this. And actually, the ride, although that camera mount might be bouncing around a little bit because it always does, is quite smooth for this type of car. Was it a shame that they discontinued this car? Do you know what? I think so. I think it was a bit of a shame. Certainly, I would recommend one of these to someone. Maybe not somebody who's the most kind of thrusting person who ever existed, but certainly if they just need to get around and need to do so with good fuel economy, you know, no version of the Baleno got less than 58 miles per gallon in the old NEDC economy tests, then this really could be a car that would suit a lot of people. So viewers, the latest Suzuki Baleno, should you buy one of these? Well, the only problem I've heard of with one of these is the air conditioning compressors on them tend to go, which is surprising for a car that's made for a lot of hot climates, but there we go. Apart from that, if you're not a fan of hard interior plastics, then yes, that could be a problem. But apart from that, I'm amazed at the level of equipment on this. Unlike what I said earlier, Colin has just told me that this car actually does have Apple CarPlay in it. It might even have Android Auto, which for a car of this type, made in 2017, is actually very good. And yeah, I think I'm quite impressed with this, really. I think I prefer this to that Renault Clio that we drove in 2 Decade Reviews recently. Whether it's the best car in its class, I don't know. I think possibly with driving dynamics, not quite what some people want, in which case you can just buy a Swift. And this obsession Suzuki have for putting loads of hard, black, shiny interior plastic in will put some people off. But yes, quite like it, really. Anyway, thank you for watching this episode of Sensible Secondhand Reviews. Please don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, click on the notification bell to be informed of new uploads. Social media links are in the description below, and thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching.
2, 3, 4. Every day with blue skies, and on every occasion that you do or don't smile, every time you dance for joy.